A mature man doesn't have time for games. At your age, you've lived long enough to know that true interest isn't hidden behind sweet words. It's shown through clear signs. The problem is, many men don't see them, or worse, ignore them out of fear of making a mistake. And in doing so, they let opportunities slip away, opportunities that could change their lives. So let me be blunt. If a younger woman asks you these questions, it's not just out of curiosity. It's because she wants something from you, and you'd better understand what each one means before it's too late. Today, we're going to break down these signs one by one. Some will surprise you, others might make you question things, but the last one, that's the one that truly reveals whether she's serious about you or just testing you. I'm Celia, and I don't sugarcoat the truth. Stay until the end and pay close attention, because after this video, you'll never doubt again when a woman approaches you. Do you know the first thing a woman wants to know when she looks at you with interest? Whether you're available. But I'm not just talking about whether you have a partner or not. I mean whether your life is truly yours, or if you're still caught in a web of family commitments, suffocating routines, and obligations that leave no room for anything else. Because when a younger woman asks if you live alone, it's not just a casual question. She's measuring something much deeper, whether you're a man in control of his own life, or just an extension of everyone else's. Think about it. A man still surrounded by children who constantly demand his attention, an ex-wife who still marks her territory, or a family that treats him like an ATM is a man with little freedom to move. And for a woman looking to get closer, that's a problem. If she asks where you live and whether you live alone, what she really wants to know is if she can enter your life without having to fight for a space that should already be yours. And this is where most men fail. Instead of answering with confidence, they hesitate. They give unnecessary explanations. They justify themselves, and in that moment, she already has her answer. Picture this: a 68-year-old man, divorced for over a decade, meets a woman 20 years younger. They like each other, the chemistry is undeniable. By their third conversation, she asks if he lives alone. He smiles and says yes, but then adds that his son visits every day, that his grandkids sometimes stay over on weekends, and that, well, his house is still a family gathering spot. She nods, keeps talking, but something in her expression changes, because even if she doesn't say it, she now knows he's not truly a free man. He doesn't have a space of his own, he doesn't have full control over his time, and whether we like it or not, that matters. Because here's an uncomfortable truth. A man without his own territory is a man with little power over his decisions. If you're still living under the shadow of others, if you can't have guests over without asking permission, or if every corner of your house is a museum of your past, then you're not a man who lives alone. You're just someone occupying a space that others control. And trust me, that shows. This isn't about pushing your kids away or isolating yourself from the world. It's about making sure that when a woman asks if you live alone, your answer is more than just a fact. It's about making sure your life reflects that independence, that you're not just alone, but that it's clear you know how to be, that you enjoy your space, and that you have control over it. Because if you can't guarantee that, how do you expect a woman to want to share it with you? If a woman wants to enter your life, the first thing she needs to know is whether there's room for her. But once she confirms that, her next question is even more revealing. What do you do? Or, what did you do? This isn't just small talk or casual curiosity. She's trying to understand who you are, what you've accomplished, and, most importantly, what kind of man she has in front of her. Because here's the truth, a man without purpose is an invisible man. We live in a world that values usefulness, the ability to produce, contribute, and create. And while many believe that aging brings the right to rest, the truth is that rest is only appealing when it's been earned through effort. A man who has built something, who has left his mark, who speaks about his past with pride rather than nostalgia, is a man who still carries weight in the present. So when a woman asks what you do or what you did, what she's really asking is whether you still have fire in your eyes or if you've already surrendered to monotony. This is where the psychology of value comes in. In nature, alpha males aren't the youngest or the strongest. They're the ones who have proven their leadership and resilience. The same applies in the human world. It doesn't matter if you're retired, if you no longer work, or if you've changed paths. What matters is that you still have a purpose. Because a man without purpose becomes nothing more than a spectator of his own life. And that is exactly what drives away any woman looking for more than just fleeting company. Picture two men in the same situation. Both are 70, both are retired. One spends his days complaining about how everything has changed, how life was better before, how there's nothing left to do. The other keeps learning, keeps exploring, keeps finding ways to stay active, whether through personal projects, hobbies he's passionate about, or activities that give his time meaning. Now tell me, if a younger woman meets both of them, which one do you think will catch her interest? It's not about money, it's not about status, it's about vital energy. If someone asks what you've done with your life, make sure your answer isn't just an excuse for inaction. There's nothing more attractive than a man who is still moving forward, who has stories to tell and plans to make, because that means his life is still in motion. And if your life is still in motion, then there's a reason for someone to want to be part of it. If a woman asks about your work history, it's because she wants to understand what kind of man you are. But when she asks if you have kids and what your relationship with them is like, what she really wants to know is where she fits into your life. This is where many men fail because they think it's an innocent question, when in reality it's a test. We've reached the third point in this video, and this is where things start to shift. Because being a man with a history is one thing, but being a man trapped in it is another. If every conversation about your family revolves around what you gave, what you sacrificed, how you go out of your way for your kids, even though they're now independent adults, you're sending a clear message. You're still living for others. And for a woman who's interested in you, that's a red flag. Think about it. No one wants to enter a relationship knowing they'll always be second place. If she senses that your life still revolves around responsibilities that shouldn't be yours anymore, if she feels that every plan you make together will depend on what your kids think or need, chances are she'll lose interest. Because when a woman asks about your relationship with your children, it's not just to hear your story, it's to see if you have the emotional space for something new. This is where the right strategy makes all the difference. Define your role and set boundaries. This isn't about abandoning your family, but it is about making it clear that your life is your own. If you drop everything every time they call, if you're still carrying responsibilities that should no longer be yours, if you can't make decisions without checking with your kids as if they were your guardians, then you are not a free man. And women notice. Picture two scenarios. In the first, a man talks about his kids with pride, says he loves them, that they see each other now and then, that they've built their own lives, and that he's learned to enjoy his own. In the second, a man mentions that he sees his kids every day, that he's still involved in their problems, that if they need anything, he's there without hesitation. Now tell me, which one do you think is more attractive? The answer is obvious, because there's a difference between being a present father and being a man controlled by the weight of his past. If this video has made you think so far, subscribe and leave a like. And tell me in the comments, do you have control over your life, or are you still living based on other people's decisions? Write it in one short sentence, and stay until the end, because the last sign is the most important one of all. So far, we've talked about space, purpose, and whether your life still revolves around others. But there's something even more revealing. If a woman wants to step into your world, she needs to know how you spend your time. That's why the next key question is, what's your daily routine? This question might seem harmless, but in reality, it's an X-ray of your life. We've reached the fourth point of the video, and this is where many men expose themselves without even realizing it. Because when a woman asks about your daily life, what she really wants to know is whether you're still alive or if you're just killing time. And here's where the biggest trap hides, the empty routine. Many believe that having a structured routine means stability. But in reality, a routine that doesn't bring you anything valuable is just a prison disguised as order. If every day looks the same, if there's no excitement, if all you do is repeat the same habits without thinking, then you're not living, you're just existing. The problem is that most men don't realize this until it's too late. They get used to monotony, to doing the same thing over and over, waking up, having breakfast, watching TV, going out for a bit, coming back home, and waiting for another day to pass. They think that's normal, that this is just how life is after a certain age. But the truth is, that kind of routine isn't life, it's a graveyard of opportunities. And a woman picks up on that instantly. If you describe a day that sounds exactly like the last one, what she hears isn't stability, it's boredom. And no one wants to step into a life that feels frozen in time. This is where the danger of a dull routine becomes even greater. Because an empty routine doesn't just push away potential relationships, it destroys you from within. It drains your energy, your enthusiasm, your desire to try new things. It steals your ability to be surprised, to enjoy, to discover. And when you lose that, you also lose your attractiveness, your magnetism, your essence as a man. It doesn't matter how well dressed you are, or how well you've kept yourself physically. If your life is grey and predictable, any woman will see it. So the real question is, what are you doing with your time? If your answer is the same as always, then you have a serious problem. The solution isn't to fill your schedule with random activities just to stay busy, it's to find something that challenges you, something that pulls you out of autopilot and brings some spark back into your days. Because when a woman asks about your routine, what she's really looking for is a reason to stay. And if she doesn't find one, she'll walk away without looking back. If a woman is curious about your daily routine, it's because she wants to know whether you're still alive or just letting the days pass. But there's an even more dangerous question, one that reveals far more than you might think. What are your plans for the future? And this is where most men have no answer. We've reached the 5th point of the video, and this one is crucial, because if you don't have a vision for the future, then what's the point of moving forward? Many men reach this stage in life with the mistaken belief that there's nothing new left to do. They think their time for building, aspiring, and dreaming is over. And so, they enter a phase of waiting, as if life no longer belongs to them, as if all that's left is to watch the world keep turning without them. But the truth is different. A man who stops making plans is a man who stops being attractive. Because a man without plans is a man without direction, without motivation, without purpose. And that has devastating consequences. First, you become dependent on others. Without your own projects, you end up living through the plans of those around you, waiting for your kids, friends, or anyone else to include you in their schedules, because you don't have one of your own. Second, you lose respect. Respect doesn't come just from age or from what you once did. It comes from what you still represent in the present. And third, and perhaps worst of all, you lose control of your life. Because when you don't know where you're going, any outside circumstance can sweep you along, turning you into a passive spectator of your own destiny. But this can be reversed, not with empty promises or cheap motivational advice. It's reversed with a clear, firm decision to stop living with your eyes fixed on yesterday and start building tomorrow with intention. It doesn't matter whether your plans are big or small. What matters is that you have something that makes you wake up each day with energy. It could be a trip, a personal project, a new skill you want to learn, a business idea, or a passion you've always put off. Anything, as long as it's yours. Because when a woman asks you about your future plans, what she's really asking is whether you're still a man in motion, or if you've already given up. And if your answer is an awkward silence, if your future is just a repetition of your past, then you already know why opportunities keep slipping away, because no one wants to board a ship that has no direction. If a woman asks about your future plans, it's because she needs to be sure she's not investing in a man with no direction. But there's an even more revealing question, one that can define her true level of interest in you. What was your ex like? Or what kind of women do you like? This is where many men fall into the trap without realizing it. We've reached the 6th point of the video, and now it's time to talk about what this question really means. Because it's not just casual curiosity or small talk, it's a test. She's feeling out the territory, looking for points of comparison, trying to figure out where she fits into your life. And here's the fatal mistake most men make: talking too much or bad-mouthing their past. Think about it. If you tell her your ex was a nightmare, that she made your life miserable, that she betrayed you or left you scarred, what do you think she hears? 2 things. First, that you're still carrying resentment from the past, that you're still affected by something that should have been buried long ago. And second, that if you speak this way about a woman you once shared your life with, sooner or later, you'll do the same to her. No smart woman wants to get involved with a man who's still stuck in old stories. On the other hand, if you say your ex was amazing, that you still admire her, that she was a great woman, and that things ended well, you're not doing yourself any favors either. Because the next inevitable question is, then why aren't you still with her? And that's where you start losing ground. Instead of focusing on the present, you give the impression that you're still living in the past. The key here isn't to over-explain or justify yourself. The key is to show clarity. If she asks what kind of woman you like, your answer should be direct and to the point. A woman who adds to my life, not one who complicates it. Someone who values who I am today, not who I used to be, period. No comparisons, no resurrecting dead stories, no getting stuck in explanations that lead nowhere. Because a man who still needs to talk about his past is a man who's still living in it. And if you're still living in the past, then there's no room for the future. If you keep talking about your past, if you're still tied to stories that no longer exist, you become a man who lives off memories instead of realities. And when a woman is interested in you, the last thing she wants is to compete with ghosts. But there's an even more dangerous question, one that doesn't just measure who you were, but also what you can offer in the present. Are you interested in money or financial stability? We've reached the 7th point of the video, and this is one of the most powerful filters a woman can use to determine whether you're a man in control of his life or just barely getting by. Because this isn't just about how much money you have or whether you're wealthy. It's about how secure you are, whether you live with dignity or rely on others to get through each day. And what many men fail to understand is that financial stability isn't measured in numbers. It's measured in attitude. Think about it. A man who has no control over his finances, who constantly worries about every expense, who depends on his children for support, is a man who has lost his freedom. Not because money is everything, but because when you lack stability, your life is no longer your own. And any woman who asks about this does so because she needs to know, does being with you mean building something together or taking on a burden? Many men assume that when a woman asks this, it's because she's gold digging. And sure, sometimes that's true. But most of the time, what she really wants to know is whether you're a man who can stand on his own. Because no one wants to enter a relationship with someone who feels fragile, who sees aging as a sentence instead of an opportunity. And this is where many men fail, because instead of responding with confidence, they play the victim. They complain about how hard life is, about the system, about their family, about the government, about bad luck. And trust me, there's nothing less attractive than that. The problem isn't how much you have in the bank. The problem is whether you project control over your life or if you live in fear of tomorrow. Because a man who still depends on others, who still waits for someone else to carry him, who hasn't realized that his own peace is his responsibility, is a man who isn't ready for anything new. So when a woman asks you this question, understand that it's not just conversation, it's a test, and the way you answer it could determine whether she stays or keeps walking. If a woman wants to know whether you have financial stability, it's not just about interest, it's about certainty. No one wants to board a sinking ship, but there's something that can be even more important than money, what you're looking for in a woman at this stage in your life. We've reached the 8th point of the video, And this is where many men expose themselves without realizing it. Because when a woman asks this, it's not just casual curiosity. It's a way to see if you truly know what you want, or if you're willing to settle for anything just to avoid being alone. And here's the problem. Most older men, after years of failed relationships, divorces, or long periods of loneliness, lower their standards. They stop looking for a relationship that makes them grow. They just want company. And the moment a man reaches that mindset, he starts projecting neediness, dependence, and weakness. Think about it. If, when asked what you're looking for in a woman, your answer is vague, something like, well, just someone to share life with, someone who loves me, or worse, at my age, I can't ask for much. All you're really showing is that you'll take whatever comes your way. And there's nothing less attractive than a man who doesn't know his worth. A woman will immediately interpret that as, this man has no direction. He'll accept whatever he can get. So here's the strategy. Define your value and don't negotiate it. If, at this stage in your life, you still don't know the difference between a woman who adds to your life and one who just complicates it, then you haven't learned anything. You can't accept just any relationship simply because loneliness weighs on you. You can't lower your standards out of fear that you won't find someone else. You need to be clear, firm, and confident in what you're looking for. A woman who respects your space, understands your independence, and isn't there to impose or demand, but to add value to your life. And here's the right mindset. You're not here to convince anyone. You don't need to prove to a woman that you're worth it. You don't need to show that you're enough for her. If a woman wants to be with you, she should earn that place. It shouldn't be given to her just because you're available. Because the moment you start justifying your worth, you've already lost it. So the next time a woman asks what you're looking for, don't hesitate, don't stutter. Say it with clarity and without fear, because the man who knows what he wants is the man who never begs for anything. If you don't have a clear idea of what you're looking for in a woman, you'll settle for anything. But even if you do know what you want, there's still something that can make a relationship fail before it even begins. Your willingness to experience new things. We're at the 9th point of the video, and this is where a lot of men fall behind without realizing it. Because when a woman asks if you like to travel, go out, or try new things, it's not just small talk. She wants to know if you still have a hunger for life, or if you've already given in to monotony. And this is where the excuses start rolling in. Many men say, I'm too old for that. That's for younger people, or at this stage, what's the point? And that's exactly the problem. It's not age that holds you back, it's your mindset. There are men in their 70s with more energy than some in their 50s. Not because they're physically stronger, but because their minds are still active. And on the other hand, there are men in their 60s who have already thrown in the towel, becoming prisoners of their routine, their habits, their couch, and their television. And when a woman sees that, she immediately understands. This man isn't really living. He's just waiting for the days to pass. Excuses always sound reasonable to the person making them. I don't have the money to travel. I don't have anyone to go out with. That's just not for me anymore. But the real problem isn't external, it's internal. Because traveling doesn't mean flying to another country. It means moving, exploring, discovering. Going out doesn't mean spending a fortune. It means changing your surroundings, getting some fresh air, stepping out of the same four walls. And trying new things doesn't mean doing something reckless. It means challenging yourself, learning, refusing to stay stuck in what you already know. If you keep telling yourself you're too old for this, guess what? You'll believe it. You'll become a dull, predictable man with no spark left. And when a younger woman asks if you like to travel or do something fun, it's not because she expects you to become some extreme adventurer. It's because she wants to see if you still have a desire to live. And if your answer sounds like resignation, then she'll resign herself too, to the fact that you're not worth her time. Because no one wants to share their life with someone who has already decided that theirs is over. If you stay trapped in excuses and the same old routine, nothing will change. As we've already said, a woman wants to see if you still have a hunger for life, if you still have the desire to experience new things. But there's one question that's even more revealing, one that isn't direct but says everything. Do you believe in second chances in love? We're at the 10th point of the video, and this is the question that defines everything. Because this isn't just about relationships, it's about how you see your own life. A man who responds with bitterness, resentment, saying he doesn't trust anyone, that he doesn't want to take any risks, is a man who has given up, and no one, absolutely no one, wants to be with someone who has already closed the door on the possibility of something better. This is where many men fail, because they think the safest option is to protect themselves, to avoid getting involved, to never trust again. But what they don't realize is that with that mindset, they're digging their own emotional grave. Because a man who shuts himself off from new opportunities isn't just rejecting love, he's rejecting life itself, and it shows. You can hear it in the way he talks, see it in his energy, in the way he moves through the world. And when a woman senses that, when she picks up on the fact that you're emotionally drained, she simply walks away. Because no one wants to carry the weight of a man who isn't willing to try again. So how do you sustain real change? By not letting the past dictate your future. By refusing to fall into the trap of saying, "I'm too old for that." Because every time you repeat that phrase, you make yourself weaker, more invisible. The strategy is simple. Stay in motion. Not just physically, but mentally and emotionally. If you shut down, you wither. If you open up, you keep growing. This isn't about jumping into the first thing that comes along. It's about not building walls before you even give yourself a chance. The difference between a man who still attracts others and one who fades into the background isn't his age, it's his attitude. If you convince yourself there's nothing left for you, then that's exactly how it will be. But if you decide there's still more road ahead, then life will have something left to offer you. The question is, are you going to stay stuck in the same cycle, or are you going to give yourself a real chance at something more? The choice is yours. If you've made it this far, you're not like most people. Most prefer to avoid these truths, look the other way, and keep living the same life as always. But not you. You stayed until the end because deep down, you know this isn't just another video. It's a wake-up call. What you do with this information is entirely up to you. You can ignore it and keep going as you are, or you can open your eyes and start living with the dignity you deserve. This isn't about attracting a younger woman, it's about liking yourself. Because if you don't respect your own time, your space, your independence, no one else will. If you don't set your own boundaries, others will pull you into theirs. And if you keep telling yourself that it's too late to change, you're condemning yourself to an old age filled with nothing but regret. Don't make that mistake. I want you to leave a comment with a short phrase, "I'm still moving," because that's the key to everything. Also, let me know what country you're watching from. I want to see how far this message is reaching and how many of you are truly ready to take control of your life. I'm Celia, and this is House of Wisdom. We're not here to entertain you or sugarcoat reality. We're here to wake you up. If this video made you think, subscribe now and join this community of people who have decided to stop being invisible. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, share it, because the truth that hurts the most is often the one we need the most. Don't go just yet, the conversation isn't over. On the screen, you'll see 2 videos that can change your perspective even further. Click on one and keep waking up.